welcome to FCCI's Pathway to Purpose webinar series. We are tackling an in-your-face daily reality of business topic today with cybersecurity and digital security, in particular social engineering, business identity theft. We're going to hear from an expert in the field of cybersecurity. In fact, he's at Texas A&M where he is involved there teaching and for the next few days providing some training. And Jim McConnell is going to be with us in just a few minutes. So looking forward to getting into that. But before we dive into the meat of our webinar today, a couple of housekeeping items and opportunities. If you would, please do introduce yourself there in the chat. We'd love to meet you and know where you're coming from today and the business that God has asked you to steward for His glory. So whether you're coming in from YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook Live, in fact, dealing with a security issue, I literally was 2 minutes late logging in today because I had to redo all of my LinkedIn security login just so I could do this today. So I was sitting here last minute getting all of that taken care of so we could log in. So there you go. Security issues in today's digital world. Sometimes it sets us a little sideways as well. So, but yeah, do let us know where you're coming from, the business that God has called you to steward for His purpose. And as you're doing that, I'd love to make you aware of our upcoming conference. It's going to be just a fantastic time together. The FCCI gathering in Sarasota, Florida. It's going to be at the Ritz-Carlton in Sarasota. That's September 22 through 24. It's a Monday through a Wednesday. We're going to enjoy outstanding business leadership training from Daniel Harkavy. Hope you can be there. Worship with 10th Avenue North. If you haven't experienced that live and in person, you're going to love it. We're going to have a great time to just rest and unwind with other Christian business owners from around the world. So don't miss that amazing multi-day experience with your FCCI family. And we do want you to be aware as well of our new initiative. It's called Banded, and we're excited to be launching Banded, getting that spun up in cities around the country. And you may know someone who would love to plug in to our monthly groups yourself, maybe some of your friends. Get involved in the monthly groups, the regular trips, the excursions with Banded. You may also be someone who could step into a leadership role as a Banded guide and serve the growth and development of entrepreneurs, business leaders, business owners in your area. So head over to joinbanded.com to learn more. Before we dive into today's webinar, let me just make you aware of what's going to be taking place in July as we welcome Walter Kearns. He's the Vice President of Sales at Fire Seeds and WildSpark. Walter is a longtime friend of FCCI. He's been a featured trainer, a clinician at FCCI conferences and regional events. Walter will be digging into this topic of emotional intelligence, and you'll benefit from his extensive industry knowledge, his experience, his expertise. So please do join us. That'll be July 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll send out registration information about that webinar later this week. Well, last night, we all know how important this topic is. Last night, I get home and I sit down, dinner, getting ready for bed. I'm wrapping up my day, and I did the thing that you're not supposed to do, right? Everyone tells you, don't check your news feed just before you go to bed. It gets you wound up, and you're thinking about too many things. Just don't do it. Well, I did. So I pull up my iPhone news feed just one more time, and there it was right in front of my face. Let me pull up here. I had 2 articles that came up in my main feed. Why? Because I had been in conversations yesterday with our webinar guest, Jim McConnell, talking about cybersecurity. So what does my iPhone feed to me? Of course, it feeds me articles about cybersecurity, digital security. So that algorithm working overtime, making sure that it's in my feed and I'm aware that it's listening. And Jim, as I bring you in here, brother, boy, I tell you what, it's hard to feel secure in a world where our devices are listening. They're serving up all this content, driving our biases and making us purchase things that we probably didn't need to purchase, all those kinds of things. But brother, it's great to have you here, Jim. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, what an honor. What an honor. And life is out there and people trying to make money.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. Well, and even in this world where I know you and I were talking earlier about, we're in this bring your own device world, the massive changes that happened during COVID. And my gracious, I can't imagine trying to manage all the IT complexities of today.
Yeah, it's whether you're a small business or a big business, trying to do these things, this word security is such an integral part of our world and our business, and not here to bring fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But we'll talk about some solutions today to one part of that. But it needs to be part of the conversation in your businesses on a regular basis, not just as it happenstance when, hey, I read this article. It needs to be more often than that.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, the travel, I'm always thinking about it with regard to just, obviously I'm on my home network right now, right? So here I am on my home network, which I'm responsible, I guess, right, for the IT there. Hopefully EPB is helping me out here in Chattanooga as well. But, I'm responsible for the security here. But then when I travel, airports, hotels, coffee shops, on and on and on, and you're on these networks. So for you, like when you travel, what are you thinking? Just give us a quick. What does Jim McConnell think when he's traveling and logging
Uh,
in?
Yeah, I turn my trust meter down a little bit. And so I'm very focused on obviously my personal safety and security of
Mm,
me or my family that I'm going with, so that's priority. But other than that, I want to make sure that in all the different areas that I'm working technologically, again, I'm going to trust a little bit less.
mm,
It's not about the person at the front desk at the hotel, but I can't assume that I'm not under contract for,
mm.
ABC hotel chain to do my security. So, as they say, what does the CEO stand for when you're a small company? Chief Everything Officer. And that means you're the chief security officer, the chief safety officer, the chief information security officer. And so,
Mm.
um, that's the
Yeah,
reality that we have to look in the mirror at.
yeah. Well, as we dig in here, folks, if you would just remember, we would love to have some Q&A with you toward the end. Jim's going to present some concepts, some ideas for us to dig into and think about, and then we'll have some time for you to submit your thoughts, your questions there in the chat. So please be ready to do that. And as we turn things over to you here, Jim, I'll let you take it from here and look forward to the presentation today.
Great. All right. Hopefully you can see my screen okay.
Good to go.
All right. So again, my name is Jim McConnell. I'm a big fan on LinkedIn, do a lot of work over there. So there's my LinkedIn QR code over on the left-hand side. Yes, that's a safe QR code. So we're talking about one aspect of business security, social engineering and business identity theft. And really, the journey either starts if you don't have a lot of security in this area, or if you've got a few things, again, it continues as we're always doing in business. And I own my own company. Um, is we're continuing to mature no matter what aspect of our security there is. And so, been doing this security and fraud stuff for over 30 years. I've been blessed to be able to see so many different areas of security, physical security and cybersecurity, information security, supply chain investigations, all the different areas in operated on the ground in about 15 countries. So I've done a lot of work around hiring security. So I do a different class on job seeker and hiring fraud and scams that are going on. It's really a big uptick right now going on in 2025. A volunteer first responder, so love my first responders. Our military law enforcement, get to mentor them as they transition those heroes. My wife is former law enforcement, but love being a first responder. My lower left-hand corner for my Jeep fans on the call, that's my Jeep and my some of my gear as a first responder. And so, yes, groceries do not fit in the back of my Jeep. Sorry, Mom. Um, I wrote a couple books, one on converged security metrics, and another one's on converged safety metrics. So if you're in the safety world, that might be able to help with that. My greatest joy is I do pro bono support for probably over 400 faith-based and churches around America, not including my online work to supporting that. So love doing that. Been doing that for almost over 30 years, small churches to big churches, cowboy churches to mega churches. So if you need help there, again, always supporting those area. I don't know about this Peyton Manning thing, but everybody thinks that I look like Peyton Manning, so I give him some props in there. My life verse is 1 Timothy 5:17, really honoring the men and women that are pastors in our world and that steward the gifts from the good Lord on stewarding what the Lord has given them to give into all of us. So that continues to be my life verse. So, why do bank robbers rob banks? Simple answer, that's where the money is. Sometimes this is not difficult. Security is not necessarily high tech all the time or complex. How do we defeat a 6 foot fence? One on the left there says it's pretty easy. If you got your fence and it looks like a ladder, you climb over it. If you got a 6 foot fence around your environment, what's the easiest way to defeat a 6 foot fence? How about a 7 foot ladder? And so, sounds simple, but the adversaries out there, the bad actors out there, the insiders that are out there that are looking to cause problems for your organization, they're looking for the easy way out at scale. And so, again, it sounds simple, but sometimes these things are simple. So I am a big fan of definitions. When I wrote my book, my 2 books, and working on my third now, I spent more time on the definitions. And so one of the things that I tell people when I'm working with them on security, safety things, I really want you to think about what's the definitions in your world. And so safety versus security, whether I'm asking a pastor or a CEO, I always ask that question. What do you think the difference is? And we as business owners, business executives, we need to understand the difference. And of course, who owns the role that plays there. And so for me, and I'm consistent in this, and it's on my website, so I'm very consistent, is safety is the prevention, detection, and response to accidents. Spilt milk, broken glass, chair rail loose, cable, extension cord going across the floor that's not taped down, etc. Security is the prevention, detection, and response to a crime or a violation of your organizational rules. I'll have a resource at the end, a couple of resources at the end of where you'll get access to some information that summarizes this presentation and gives you a bunch more resources that I don't even talk about in the presentation. But really, really key on is, do you understand and how do you manage safety versus security in your world? And why do we need to do this? Because we have these things called secure. I want to be secure. Well, you can never be 100% secure. You want to be, we want to prevent things like fraud. And so what do we want to do? We want to feel safe. And so the word safe is really a feeling. If I've got little Miss Mary, a single mom that's taken Johnny to kids' church, she's going to look around and she's not going to drop off Johnny into kids' church if she doesn't feel safe. And so what is she looking for? She's looking for safety things. She's looking for security things in that environment to where she feels safe dropping little Johnny off so she can go enjoy her worship time. Whether even in coming into your business, if you've got a retail environment, people want to feel safe. If they don't feel safe, they're not going to associate with that. Even online, if you're doing certain things online in your, say, e-commerce environment, and you don't have certain safety things going on and security things going on with your website, with your taking credit cards, etc., people are not going to buy from you. In the physical realm, where does medical fit in? There are obviously some elements to that. Where medical, again, different topic, different class, but I do address that. And some people think, Jim, do I need, I got safety and security. Where does my medical stuff fit in? CPR, first aid kits, etc. So, and what you call these things internally or even externally doesn't change. What I will tell you is when the Z&N truck shows up and you have an incident at your environment, they don't really care, but you need to know if you have an incident. And of course, I'm not here to put fear, uncertainty, and doubt, but incidents will happen. So we've got fear on the left-hand side that we're obviously taught biblically to have a healthy set of fear. All the way on the right-hand side, we want the freedom to be able to run our business. And how do we balance those things when we're running a business 110 miles an hour? And that really is around security awareness. That is a regular thing. It's not just about technology and locks and keys and cores and all of those things, but it really is around consistent security awareness. whether it's the receptionist or the person in the mirror, doesn't matter who it is, vendors, etc. And so we want to have that fear that bad things could happen, but again, we have to balance that with the freedom to run our business. So, three basic triangles when we're educating folks in these areas. Lower left-hand corner is we have information security. Some people will call it the cybersecurity triad or the information security triad. So we've got things in our world that we want to keep confidential, whether that's pricing or employee information, bank account information, et cetera. We want to make sure that we deal with that information with integrity, so that that integrity is that the data and the information is, if you got $500 going into the bank account, that it really is $500. And so we want, data to have integrity. And of course, we have to have everything availability. So if our website goes down, how much business are we going to lose? Lower right-hand corner, we've got assets in our business, physical assets, information assets, knowledge, etc. We've got threats to that, and we've got vulnerabilities to that. And so those are kind of the big rocks of security, whether it's, again, physical or cyber or financial, et cetera. But then, of course, we have what we call the fraud triangle, which is going to be the key in identity theft and social engineering. Is there really the exploitation of something called the fraud triangle? Dr. Donald Cressy came up with this many years ago, and it really says, how does a fraudster work? And the fraudster works on the concept of they have an opportunity to commit fraud. They're under some type of pressure to commit that fraud, and they rationalize that they're going to commit that fraud. And that fraudster could be an inside employee, all the way to a foreign government. It doesn't matter. All of them are really driven around these three different concepts. So we got little Johnny in the upper right-hand corner there, probably sitting with dad, and there's some cookies. And so Johnny sees the cookies on the counter and says, the opportunity there is to get some cookies. The pressure is he's hungry. And as soon as he saw the cookies, he's really hungry. And how does he rationalize it? I'm going to take a cookie because I've been a good boy and I have made my bed this morning and I combed my hair properly and I did what mommy and daddy told me to do. Now, is Johnny taking a cookie a fraudster? Of course not. But the concept is similar. If daddy there is not dealing with cookies and dealing with your money of your business and he or she's an employee of yours, the concepts are the same. And so when you're talking about a fraudster that's looking to scam your environment, internally or externally, using social engineering, because social engineering, business identity theft is really the tool to commit the fraud. And so, what is about business identity theft really involved? Your personal identity, so stealing your personal information to commit fraud or do scams or steal money or steal information. Your business's identity, some people would call this the brand, but that identity is more than just the brand or a logo. Your customer data, that identity, your supplier's identity, your employee's identity, and unfortunately, sometimes your family gets impacted there. What are they trying to steal or impact? They're trying to impact your brand, your financial assets. And again, that's a very broad statement there. Could be not just money. Your social media accounts. They want to exploit or damage your customer trust, your employee trust, or your supplier trust. And so that's what the adversary is after. And again, when I say adversary, don't think of it as a criminal with a hoodie that looks out there and they call them anonymous. Think about a wide variety from, again, employees all the way up to suppliers, to customers, all the way to nation state government-owned actors that are out there. And I've had investigations of all of those in my career of 30 years of doing this, sadly enough. So let's know our enemy. The most popular hacking methods that are out there. This is from a number of years ago, but it's pretty much the same. And number one out there in this particular study, it was social engineering. Again, you've got compromised accounts. You've got all kinds of other different methodologies. When I support a client or supporting, say, a church, I look at a lot of these different areas. And so I may use physical intrusion through social engineering to compromise some information that might be inside the building. And so there sometimes is a combination of these things. But again, social engineering is the number one tool, still works to this day. So how do we define it? In its simplest terms, is the art and science of getting people to comply with your wishes. Jokingly, some people used to call this sales, but fundamentally, tactically, is that art and science to doing that. Some people are incredibly gifted at this in the way of testing and education. I do it enough to be able to be successful most of the time when I'm helping organizations. But the reality is that we all have a social engineering skill set in us, even if we're parents working on the kids kind of thing or your teenagers. The mental side is really changing people's belief system to trust you or trust the bad actor into saying, you can trust me to not do bad. And so now I've got to be able to change people's belief system to do that. So the first one is generally something called phishing. You may hear this term in media or in newspapers, etc. And so this is probably the most common. It's much more anonymous, and it can scale very largely. So in the lower left-hand corner, that is a set that's from a real investigation. I did not work this investigation, but I know some people that were involved in it. And that is little boxes that you can buy in the public domain, and each of those little white dots on those little boxes, there's 500 on each of those little boxes there. They kind of look like a soundboard, if you've ever seen a soundboard. And each of those little white slots there are for cell phone SIM slots. And there's about 500 on each of those. So if you do the math of 14 of those boxes times 500, you can do the math that it's simulated that many cell phone calls or text messages. And of course, you see the antennas there. And that is where they were massively scaling, using this tool to massively scale people text messaging for fraudulent purposes. The simple stuff of your UPS package, you didn't pay your DMV fees, all the different things that we get over texting. So that's just one method. Why do they invest in things like that? Because it works. Why do fraudsters commit fraud? Because it works. So normal phishing is that email you get. Hey, how you doing? You That order you placed with Amazon did not make it through. Can you click here and reestablish that so we can get that right over to you? It could be, again, something simple there. Spear phishing is where we're going to be targeting, again, whether via voicemail or text or email or uh, direct messages on different platforms like Facebook or LinkedIn. And spear phishing is where I'm going to be targeting specific people. Doesn't necessarily mean just executives. It could be somebody in finance or somebody at the reception desk. It doesn't matter. So they're going to target, spear. They're going to throw the spear at particular people. Whaling. Whaling is generally, if you think about the whales that they talk about in the casino world, whaling is where we're going to go after high net worth or high value folks that are going to be more valuable in that sense of financial situations. Vishing is where we're going to be using voice to try to trick people. I could take Ken's voice, record about 30 seconds of Ken's voice right now. We teach this in a class that I teach at Texas A&M. Uh, we can take 30 seconds of Ken's voice, and then I can convert that into kind of anything I want to say, hey, Mary, can you go down to the grocery store and buy 50 gift cards, $50 each, and have them sent to my hotel? And it will sound like Ken, it will impersonate Ken, etc. So it really does work. Smishing is that SMS or your text messaging stuff. And then the last area is what we call business email compromise, ACH, which is your bank transfer. And I'll talk a lot more of that in a minute. I actually have a client of mine that had their business email compromised, and they had money almost transferred. They called me just in time, where it was a significant amount of money. And if they had not called, they're called out very quickly, not just to me, but to a person that knew this stuff, they probably would have been out of business a few days afterwards. So, please pause for a public service announcement. So let's simply show you some real phishing and social engineering that was going on. So these are ones that I've actually experienced personally. So I'm not using headlines and things like that. There's enough headlines like Ken showed earlier that we can talk about. Let me just show you some real live examples. Upper left-hand corner on my screen, at least, is my wonderful mom there, and she's passed away. But this was a Facebook message that I got from her one afternoon, sitting in my lazy boy. Hello, how are you doing? And of course, I said, wonderful. That's not how mom talks. The first clue where it says account was recently created. And on the right-hand side is my back and forth. What ended up being with, if you see there, I'm pretty good and fine, enjoying my life, thanking God for it. How life is treating you and your family. Again, this is how mom talks to her son. And so, lo and behold, in this particular situation, I stayed on this with these and ended up being two fraudsters for 2.5 hours. So let that sink in. They spent 2.5 hours trying to convince me to send them money in a variety of different ways. They have time, they have resources, they have time on their hands. I went back and forth, had a lot of fun with them, and I recorded that entire session that I do as an icebreaker for conferences and things like that, and had a lot of fun with them. They at one point called me an idiot and other interesting words. And I talked to them for another half an hour. So I social engineered them and they social engineer me. I do not recommend anyone do this unless you are trained on doing it. But it's just the point of they will take, in this case, they cloned her account and try to do this. Imagine this to your family. Imagine this to your parents. Imagine this to some of your employees. Would they fall for some of these things? Unfortunately, it does happen. I had a person in my realm of things. She called me up. Friends of mine, she called me up. She said, Jim, I had a problem with my streaming service that she had on her TV. And she called up a large ISP telecommunications provider. Uh, and so when she was talking to them, they used Google to go try to help her find because they were not in charge of that streaming service. She says, "Oh, let me look it up for you." And the adversary in this case had taken over Google searches to where the real 1-800 number technical support had now fallen below on the second page of Google. And now they were the first few lines on that Google. And so the telecommunications customer service person grabbed the first one. They said, "Oh, ma'am, just call 1-800-555-1212." So my friend called that number up, and sure enough, they answered, "Hi, we're streaming service technical support. How may we help you?" When she called me, they had already had three pieces of software installed on her computer. And the only reason her sixth sense, or the good Lord blessing her, that she got freaked out was when the person on the other end of the line said, "Ma'am, will you stop moving your mouse?" And that's when she had a clue that there was a problem. She pulled the plug, called me, and we found all this out. She, again, was very close to losing all of her money. One of the big things right now that's going on is brand breaches. So, breaching your brand, taking over your social media accounts that you forgot you had. Oh, we don't do Instagram anymore, but you never deleted that account. Here is around job seekers, where job seekers will fall victim to fraudulent recruiting. The opposite is absolutely taking place where you have fraudulent job seekers trying to get a job inside of your company. I'm doing a lot of work in this area right now. I've studied over 1,000 fraudulent profiles that are going on. So this is a huge area. So left-hand side, this was a company that had been brand breached on LinkedIn, not picking on LinkedIn, where over 23% of the people that were tied to their business company page on LinkedIn were fraudulent recruiters. So that's a sample right there of, and they ended up having 140 different fraudulent profiles on their company page. In the middle there, well, if you're West Staff, which is a legitimate recruiting firm, that's where their brand is now being used by this adversary who calls herself Emily. Obviously, that's not who it is. And there's again a lot of indicators here. Right hand side, there's where we're using the fraudsters are using email to try to recruit a person into what they trying to get them to apply for a job. And so it crosses all different areas of your business, the social and engineering activities. So, what are the most common ID theft paths? Absolutely. Social engineering is your number one area. Information stolen from your company, that you've given to another company, giving your information to. So again, mainly your supply chain areas, and that's where a lot of identity theft. They'll work through your supply chain where they may have less security than you do, and so that does happen. My son, my wonderful son, owns two Amazon services businesses. And he has, even though he's a small company, small in in some sense, but super proud of him. He's got 5 employees, uses some temps, big supply chain environment. He gets social engineered. He has insider threat where we've had to go in and investigate insider threat issues. And he's dealing with a lot of suppliers and customers type stuff. And one of his customers was a victim of a huge fraudulent situation where it was hundreds of thousands of dollars. So again, we're sharing information. So your employees, your contractors, your temps, your interns, unfortunately, all of these are passed. And it doesn't mean your employees, contractors, temps, and interns and your suppliers are the adversary. They could be a victim just to get to you, or you could be a victim getting to them. So it goes all different ways, unfortunately. So I'm not a fan of talking again, fear, uncertainty, doubt. So I'm going to give you some real world kind of solutions. I'm here to give solutions to you and not here to make money on this stuff. These are real things you can implement today. And again, this is a summary of what we'll give you in the resources at the end. But avoid using generic user accounts. I know you've got to do this for things like email and customer service, et cetera. So info at AB, Acme Brick Company. I get it. But anytime you're going and say, hey, here's our company Amazon account, don't use generic accounts. If you've got 5 people that need to get onto Amazon and buy things, make there's 5 accounts. If you've got any of your technology that you use, buy the 5 accounts. And I know on things like QuickBooks, I use QuickBooks. Jim, if I go to 5 accounts, that's a lot more money and expense. I agree. Security versus finances. Hard thing to deal with. Dual factor passwords, we see this in a lot of environments, particularly in the banking area, where dual factor passwords, where texting somebody or emailing you a special code, etc. Wherever you can implement that in your world, for you, your suppliers, your customers, etc., implement it because again, this is one of those 6 foot fences kind of situations. If I've got an 8 foot fence, not a lot of 9 foot ladders out there. So the more I can do these things, the more the adversary is going to go somewhere else. Educate your HR teams. If you have an HR team on the different scams on the recruiting side, again, different class, but that's a huge, huge issue right now. Massive issue, all the way to the FBI putting out bulletins on that situation. Monitor all your major job boards and your company review websites. Audit your LinkedIn associated members because if I'm on LinkedIn and somebody DMs me from your company, how do I know they're not really working for you? And so people are using LinkedIn because it's a trusted platform to sign up as your employee, and you don't have the approval right now. We're working on this with LinkedIn to be able to say, yes, that person really does work for me. I can go on right now in 5 minutes, change my profile, and I go to work for one of your companies. And you have no say about it, and you do not get notified. So audit that list out there because they are acting as your company. Set up alerts like you do in your personal world on credit cards, P cards, purchasing cards, travel cards, bank accounts, on logins and transactions. Uh, but Jim, we just have a lot of transactions. Yeah, let me get out the little violin type thing. Nerd alert, maximize your controls around, there's different acronyms there. Whoever manages your email or your IT company or IT department will understand what those are. I put those there so you can go back and reference to that. Um, if you have the ability to add the word external or something like that to your inbound emails so that your employees understand that, hey, this came from Jim.McConnell at ABC Brick Company. Oh, wait a minute. Why did it come from external? And so it gives them an indicator. Maybe that's not really Jim McConnell that's coming in. Maybe it's Acme Brick Company, but that changes the I to a 1. And so you can't tell it. So getting that added to all your inbound external emails, again, great little tool out there, and it doesn't cost you anything. Your email provider can provide that to you. Again, tight controls on all your social media accounts and your executive accounts. They're going to target those more than ever else. Verify you're compliant with your customer contracts and your suppliers are compliant with your contracts. For ones that are familiar with it, something called flow down. If you're not familiar with this contract area, work with your attorneys, work with your insurance companies to make sure you're compliant. Again, because as an adversary, I'm going to take any path that I can to get into you, and that may be through customers or suppliers. And of course, we don't want to lose customers if we're not compliant to those contracts. And so, big deal. If you get compromised and you're used as a way to compromise your customer, let me just tell you, that's a bad day. How do we do company due diligence on our suppliers and customers? Are we hiring or are we going to start to do business with customers and suppliers that we're not really sure about? We've heard the word KYC, KYS, know your customer, know your supplier. Some of you are in probably a regulatory environment where you're required to do this by law. But so checking their official websites, again, this is due diligence before you deal with a customer or supplier. And again, I'm not talking about if you can, one of my suppliers is Chipotle because I love eating there and I use my purchasing card, my travel card for my company to go eat at Chipotle. I'm not talking about doing this for Chipotle. You know the companies that are suppliers and customers that are critical, but checking these things out there. You see one that says ABC OFAC down there. If you deal with foreign organizations as customers or suppliers, you're required by law to do that. If you're not doing it, shame on you. Go fix that. So again, just a few areas here to think about when you're talking about looking at suppliers and customers. Because again, I want to make sure we found a company the other day that does quote unquote recruiting, and they'll help you recruit all your people that you want them to recruit. They have over 5,000 jobs that they are recruiting for. They are pretty much 100% a scam. And I could show you them heavily on LinkedIn right now. And they are a massive company. They operate out of Hungary, the country of Hungary, and they have links to other interesting countries. But they've just popped up, and their sole role is to steal information. But they're there to help you recruit. Is my information exposed individually or as a company? Here's some simple sites that are out there that I trust that you can go out to. But lots of data that's out there. These are tools where you can go out and put your company email addresses in there and your company websites, et cetera, and tell how they've been part of a breach. And so, particularly around company emails, you can run them through these things, your personal emails. Mom and dad's, grandpa's, whatever, run them through these tools, and they'll tell you if they're part of a breach. And if they are, of course, you're going to get into do I need to change those emails? I need to change passwords where I need to reset those. But again, that's a quick check. It's not the only place to determine if you've been exposed, but they're just one example to help you out if you've been exposed. Jim, I'm a victim. What do I do? I want you to check in with your bank and your financial, alert them on your bank accounts, on your retirement accounts, all those different financial and bank accounts. Have that list ready and checking in with them and say, hey, can I add an additional password or code word or something like that on there? Can I change can I start getting alerts, etc.? Credit freezes, monitoring working with Dun and Bradstreet on the business side, your DUNS number to protect yourself over there. Obviously, all your e-commerce passwords. Jim, we buy a lot from Amazon or Staples or Granger or something like that. Go resetting those. Reporting things into the FTC if you're in the United States, IC3 in the United States, or even your local police department. All of those are about to get the information into the various systems so the investigators of the world can start to track these things down. I'll give you an example. I'm working an investigation right now around fraudulent postal labels. So you go out to these sites and they say, hey, we can get you postal labels for 50% off what the post office will sell it to you. I've been researching that. I'm up to probably about 20 of those companies that just offer inexpensive postal service. And again, 100% of them are fraudulent. So we're continuing. So that's where I start to take that information with other information and start to notify law enforcement and say, hey, let's start taking these companies down. A few around, again, just different things to think about. Background checks on employees, background checks on suppliers, email security, whether you use Gmail or Office 365 or Yahoo or iCloud, employee training, Know Before You. Know Before is a great company out there. Again, I'm not endorsing any of them. It's just companies I've worked with. I don't make any money on any of these things, but they're very good on fish testing and fish training for your employees. I know a lot of companies that use them. Identity theft. People ask me about LifeLock, so I put it up there. There's pros and cons of that. They're not bad, but again, they cost money, and so we obviously, as small businesses, big businesses, different value, even personally. You've got computers, cell phones, social media, yearly cleanup, quarterly cleanup. How are we backing those things up? How are we locking them down? If we're traveling, do we carry a cable that locks down our computers? Do we carry it with every time? People ask me about hotel safes. Hotel safes are okay, but don't rely 100% on them. Virtual credit cards. I love virtual credit cards. Sorry, Dave Ramsey. But where you can use virtual credit cards for your business, Apple Pay, Google Pay, they're fantastic. Why? Because the real credit card number doesn't get transmitted. And the nice thing about that is if the company you're buying from gets breached, they're not going to get your real credit card. Your credit reports on the personal side, your DUNS report on the business side, obviously having shredders, good passwords, etc. Um, so, Jim, in summary, what do we do for Monday morning? Um, I have a self-assessment tool for small business on my website. It doesn't cost you anything. I don't ask for your email address. I use it both. I have a church version of it and I have a small business version of it. Go out and take that self-assessment. It'll give you some idea of how well you're doing on your security governance. And again, you don't have to call me if there's a problem there, but have multiple people. If you have a good number of employees, have multiple people fill it out to see what you think you are in the way of security and what they think you are in security. And so I offer that out there. Plain old things like that. It's not necessarily social engineering, but we're talking about taking care of our people. Plan a fire drill. You know when. It will be educational. If you haven't done one of those in a while, take care of your people first. Assign a PIO. And a PIO stands for Public Information Officer. This is for that time if you do get breached or if you do have a problem security wise at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday and five media trucks just showed up in front of your business. Who's going to talk to them? And if it's not you, who do you plan to do that? I hope that upon nobody, but I do tell people be prepared for that. And so think about that. Plan for lunch at your building. If you're a company that has a building, bring your police and fire department. Educate them on your building. Educate them on what you do. That way, if you do call them in a cyber breach, particularly obviously the police department there, they're not clueless on who you are and how important your information is to you. And so invite them, whether it's local, federal, law enforcement, whatever, but invite them. Take care of these heroes. On a cybersecurity front, build a cybersecurity training into your training plan for your employees, whether it's part of onboarding, recurring, ongoing. I mentioned one here about TEACS called AWR 383. All the TEACS courses are free, so it's nice there. But if you can't afford those, TEACS has a bunch of free courses online that you can take advantage of. Um, and I work for TEACS as an adjunct. I don't work for them full time, but I love their courses. I'm a student of TEACS, not just an instructor for TEACS, but that's an example there. But take advantage of these free things out there and add it to your cybersecurity training for your employees, your kids, your spouses, whoever else. These are things that are free out there. Again, many of them are online. And if you've got AWR 383, for example, is a face-to-face 4-hour course, great for certain types of organizations out there. So I'll close with this resources. There's a couple QR codes there. One goes to a couple of resources, a few resources that I built specifically for you all, and the other one is some additional resources on my website. I think Ken's going to include this in a follow-up email, but you can scan those down. Those are safe QR codes. But really, around what I want you to do is think about we all have vehicles. I love my Jeep. And when I go out to my Jeep right now and I click that button on my remote control, I click it. Well, why do we all click that button and we click it twice? Because we don't trust Cadillac. We don't trust Jeep. And so I want people to think about in this world, trust a little bit less. Hit that button twice. If you get that email, you get that text, you get that DM, you get that phone call, I want you to trust a little bit less than we do. And I know we as Christians we think about trust in the Lord, he's going to take care of us. These are adversaries. These are people that have ulterior motive. I want you to trust a little bit less, even on some QR codes you might have out there. So my name is Jim McConnell. I'm a corporate security leader. I keep businesses, brands, executives out of the headlines and out of jail. My name is Jim McConnell. Ken, I'll turn it back over to you.
Jim, this has been fantastic. Thank you. You just gave me an excuse for clicking that lock button because I love doing that. I'll click it like 5 times. It drives my wife crazy. She's like, "Would you please stop?" Like, well, it's just kind of fun.
Jim
So
said,
Jim said I can do it. So there you go. Oh, this has been great. In this whole area of phishing. So talk to us about specifically how do we go about training, testing employees, making sure that they're aware. What would be some practical ways that we could do that and help our employees avoid that minefield of phishing?
sure, there's what I would call three levels. We all have our examples that are out there. Add it to the next staff meeting.
Hmm.
Put it up on the screen. All right. Somebody's getting a $5 gift card. If they can spot the five things in this screen that would be an indicator of phishing or something like that.
Hmm.
I used the example earlier on. I had a picture of the lady, Emily. There were five things on that little screenshot that was an indicator that she was a fraudulent recruiter out there. So that's the simple thing. We all get them. We all see them, whether it's a text or whatever like that. The next area is there's a number of good know before me, knowbefore.com. There's a number of them out there, kind of good free phishing testing. So taking your folks through that again at a staff meeting, it's kind of like safety briefings that we
Right.
might do in
Just
certain
got to do
businesses.
it. Yeah.
So just do it. And of course, then there's paid services that will do it on a recurring basis that you would consider in, say, future funding.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So, when it comes to this, I mean, I guess the reality is we need to take the time. We need to plan ahead. This needs to become part of our regular routine. Make sure that we're teaching, training ourselves, our employees. The hard thing for me is usually like as you were just talking about that LinkedIn example, and there's that person, and I just to slow down and actually read it, right? Because we're all moving too fast, right? We're on the go. Someone sends a friend request or whatever, a connection request on LinkedIn, and before you just yeah, I'm going. Okay, that looks good. Boom. Yeah, and yeah, that person knows so and so. Okay, good. And I've had to train myself to stop and say, okay, no, 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 I really need to look at this. Yeah, I mean, it's just,
Yeah, and that's for us as looking in the mirror, take our own responsibility. But again, your kids, your
mm-hmm,
spouses, the grandparents, it's all these different. And the more you educate others, the
yeah,
more it's easier for you. But yeah, again, that's why I don't throw a thousand examples out there because we see it.
mm-hmm,
But again, it's around. I mean, there's a whole movie on it right now. That's a shoot 'em up movie on this problem. And so when Hollywood figures it out, but the other one, by the way, sometimes is, we've seen the secret shopper stuff. We've seen the undercover boss stuff. A
mm-hmm,
lot of that is social engineering now in a positive way, hopefully. But there's a lot of different things here. Again, start with the staff meetings and just
mm,
start to become part of the normal routine of the agenda.
yeah, yeah, sure. Well, a lot of us were outsourcing IT management. How do we know if they are actually taking care of security? I mean, how do we know? We're just susceptible
Yeah,
to
you're
whatever we do know. So,
Yeah, so anybody that outsources IT. Now, I'm not talking about Microsoft or Google, the big kind of, platform like, but if you've got a company that's probably a local company that's doing some of that,
mm-hmm,
sometimes called a managed service provider, et cetera, um, you do some things around uptime and old hardware, old software, et cetera. Well, start requiring them to prove what security mechanisms that they have in place.
mm,
One of the examples that I put in my resources that wasn't on this screen was really around how well are they doing with end of life, end of service software in your world or hardware? How much software and hardware? The average laptop that's sitting in front of all of our desks right now has 84 different manufacturers of software on it. Let me let that sink in. Is your MSP IT service provider managing all that to keep it up to date, not just patches, but not getting those software that are too old that when you call Adobe, they're like, "No, we don't support 7.0, we're at 12.0." So, yeah, challenge them. Ask them for dashboards. Now, I wrote a book on security metrics, so I'm always going to say, what's the metrics on there? They'll be able to tell you, by the way, if they're doing a good job on things that they've stopped, prevented, the amount of spam that they've stopped. Those are all good things. Prevention is great, detection is great, but start to challenge them. And you say, well, Jim, we kind of didn't put that in the contract. Well, time to call the attorney and set up an addendum.
mm, yeah, for sure. Well, Jim, this has been so good. Any other, best ways to prepare ourselves? I mean, like you said, it's going to happen, right? I mean, it's kind of inevitable. So, how do we best prepare ourselves for that inevitability of somebody gets caught in a scheme, in a scam?
Yeah. It's not if, it's when, type of thing, unfortunately. I tell people kind of three things, three or four things. If you run into that situation where somebody did click and it's, as they say, right of bang, first your PIO. Who's your PIO? Who's that person in front of the cameras type thing? So that's number one is PIO. Number two, again, no particular order. Cyber insurance. We have a whole discussion on cyber insurance. There's a lot of pros and cons of cyber insurance, but research it. You don't have it, you don't have it, and it's a tool in the toolbox, not the only tool in the toolbox. Um, who does security in your world? That's what my self-assessment really talks about. If it's nobody, then it's you as the executive. Those are who does the locks and keys all the way up to the cyber stuff. And again, if you're using a
Mm-hmm.
managed service provider, how do you hold them accountable? And then backups, backup plans. I tell people, oh yeah, we've got backups. When's the last time you actually restored one of those backups?
Mm,
Because I have found a lot of times where the backup little button says all done, backed up at 1:18 this morning, and you go to restore it and there's no files there.
there's nothing.
So restore your backups, et cetera. And then what I tell people is, again, I go back to that staff meeting, sit in the room, come up with a scenario and say, if we lost, pick the system of the day. How would we recover? And if there's kind of silence around the room or challenges
Mm,
or, oh, we would just call, et cetera, that's the time to kind of say, maybe we need to invest in some resources to better prepare ourselves for incident management. Again, I'm going to pick on Teaks. I love them. They've got lots of free courses on that incident response process. Take advantage of them. Your tax dollars at work, people.
mm.
Yeah, just a few things to think about.
No, that's great. That is fantastic, and I love the very practical resource there. And so, as we wrap up here, folks, just a reminder: yes, those That link will be in the email that's coming out to you in just a bit here, about 5 after the hour. And so you'll have that email with the link, and so you'll be able to get to that. AskMcConnell.com for sure. Just go there. You can track down a lot of information there as well. So great for that. Jim, any closing words, thoughts as we wrap up here?
Yeah, people will ask me a lot about policies. Jim, do you have any
Mm,
policies in these different areas? Again, on the resources, I build a free, no email, I will never know you go to it, repository of over 50 one-pager policies.
mm.
And so I'm a fan of policies, but I'm a fan of one-pagers, not books that are this thick. And so again,
Wow.
just
Yeah.
resources, Ken, to you and the audience and FCCI,
Thank you.
to go take advantage of that. So you've got the resources. Now it's the person in the mirror that's got to go act on it.
Mm,
Again, not out of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's around protecting your employees first.
mm.
And then again, protecting you, your business, your customers, your suppliers, et cetera.
Yeah.
This needs to be part of the prioritization of
Mm-hmm.
running your business.
Yeah, yeah, it's good stewardship, and we've been given this platform, this ministry that we call a business here at FCCI, and we are called to steward it and steward it well, and this is part of that. So thank you for that. Really appreciate it, Jim. Have a great, wonderful rest of the day. I understand you're headed off to teach some classes, so blessings on you.
Sir,
Thanks for what you're doing there, and thank you so much for all this content today. Really, really wonderful.
thank you for the honor.
Yeah. Well, if you didn't catch it earlier, we are going to be having another webinar in July. So July 15, we'll look forward to having you there. And folks, have a wonderful rest of the day. Blessings on you.